Under a sky painted with hues of crimson and twilight, the ancient clock tower of Morn Vale stood sentinel against the encroaching darkness. Its once majestic silhouette was now marred by the ravages of time, the stone walls weathered and moss-covered, reaching desperately toward the heavens. The townspeople spoke of it in hushed tones, a relic of a bygone era that had long lost its purpose. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the desolate landscape, the clock's hands lay still, frozen in time. Silence enveloped the town, broken only by the occasional whisper of the wind through the empty streets. But as midnight approached, an unsettling stillness took hold, and the clock tower seemed to breathe, a slow, deliberate movement that defied the passage of time. Suddenly, with a creak that echoed through the empty town, the hands of the clock began to move backward. A low, ominous chime resonated through the air, vibrating with a malevolent energy. The townsfolk, though few and far between, felt a collective shiver run down their spines, a prelude to the mysteries that were about to unfold. Before we venture into this thrilling tale, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're always the first to uncover the next mystery. Now, let's begin. Morn Vale was a town caught in the throes of stagnation, its streets bearing the scars of neglect and abandonment. Once a thriving center of commerce and community, it now stood as a ghostly reminder of prosperity lost. Shops that once brimmed with activity were shuttered, their windows cracked and panes broken. The marketplace, once vibrant with the chatter of traders and townsfolk, lay silent, the stalls empty and forgotten. The townspeople moved with a weary resignation, their faces etched with lines of hardship and despair. Hope seemed like a distant memory, a flickering candle struggling against the encroaching darkness. Whispers of the clock tower's curse floated through the air, carried by the gossip of those who dared to speak of it. Tales of unexplained disappearances, eerie lights emanating from the tower at night, and shadows that danced just beyond the edge of vision. Amidst this backdrop of decay and fear, the arrival of a stranger was both a beacon of hope and a harbinger of uncertainty. Morn Vale had not seen visitors in years, and the sudden appearance of an outsider stirred a combination of curiosity and suspicion among the weary residents. On a crisp autumn morning, as the first light of dawn began to dispel the lingering night, a sleek carriage made its way along the cobblestone streets of Morn Vale. Its polished wood gleamed in the early sunlight, a stark contrast to the dilapidated surroundings. The townsfolk watched with both of intrigue and apprehension as the carriage came to a halt near the town square. From the carriage emerged a man of striking appearance, his presence commanding attention without effort. Tall and impeccably dressed, Mr. Thane carried an air of enigmatic charm that seemed to draw people in, despite their initial reservations. His eyes, a piercing shade of gray, held secrets that seemed to dance just beneath the surface, hinting at a past shrouded in mystery. As he disembarked, his shadow stretched unnaturally long in the morning light, an eerie reminder of the legends that clung to the clock tower. The townsfolk gathered, whispering amongst themselves, eyes wary yet hopeful. Mr. Thane approached the townspeople with a warm smile, his voice smooth and reassuring. "Good morning, esteemed residents of Morn Vale," he began, his tone both confident and soothing. "I am Mr. Thane, a horologist of some renown. I have come to offer my expertise in restoring your beloved clock tower. I understand the significance it holds for your town, and I assure you, with my assistance, we can bring back the heartbeat that has long been silenced." There was a moment of silence, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Then, slowly, a sense of hope began to rekindle among the townsfolk. They had waited for someone to breathe life back into their forsaken town, and Mr. Thane seemed to be the answer to their silent prayers. Yet, beneath their hopeful gazes, a flicker of unease remained, an unspoken question lingering in their minds: who was this man, and what price might their newfound hope demand? As Mr. Thane began his work on the clock tower, the rhythm of the town seemed poised on the brink of transformation. Little did they know, the ticking that would soon fill the air was not just the restoration of time, but the awakening of a darkness long buried beneath Morn Vale's weary facade. Comment below with your first impressions. what do you think Mr. Thane's true intentions are? Have you ever encountered a mystery that defied explanation? We'd love to hear your thoughts and theories. As the days unfolded in Mornvale, the arrival of Mr. Thane began to weave itself intricately into the town's daily rhythm. The townsfolk, long resigned to their stagnant existence, found a flicker of hope ignited by his promise of restoration. The air, once thick with the scent of decay and despair, now hummed with cautious optimism. In the bustling town square, the mayor, a portly man named Thomas Grayson, stood alongside Mr. Thane, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries with the eager residents. His hearty laugh and confident demeanor inspired trust, his words painting vivid pictures of a prosperous future. Under Mr. Thane's guidance, Grayson envisioned a revitalized marketplace, thriving shops, and a renewed sense of community pride. Meanwhile, in the quiet corners of Mornvale, not everyone shared this burgeoning enthusiasm. In the shadowed sanctuary of St. Michael's Parish Hall, Father Ewan and Eleanor Hawthorne, the town's diligent librarian, found themselves exchanging uneasy glances. The room was filled with the soft murmur of prayers and whispered concerns, but their eyes communicated a silent alarm. "Do you feel it, Eleanor?" Father Ewan whispered, his voice heavy with unease. Eleanor nodded slowly, her fingers tracing the worn edges of an ancient ledger she had been poring over. "There's something about him, Father. His knowledge of the clock tower's history, it's too precise, almost as if he's hiding something." Their shared apprehension contrasted sharply with the growing cheer outside. Mr. Thane's charismatic presence seemed to cast a spell over the town, his every word laced with reassurance and promise. Yet, beneath the surface of his genial exterior, a shadow of doubt lingered in the minds of those who knew to look deeper. As the sun set each evening, casting long shadows over Mornvale, Father Ewan and Eleanor found themselves growing more concerned. They couldn't shake the feeling that Mr. Thane's arrival was not merely coincidental, that his intentions might extend beyond the simple restoration of a clock tower. With unwavering dedication, Mr. Thane began the meticulous work of repairing the ancient clock tower. Each day, he ascended the creaking wooden stairs, his presence a blend of precision and reverence for the time-worn mechanism. The townsfolk watched in awe as he deftly navigated the intricate gears and cogs, restoring life to the once dormant heart of Mornvale. Under his expert hands, the clock tower transformed. Dust-covered mechanisms were oiled and polished, corroded gears were replaced, and the grand clock face was meticulously cleaned to reveal its original splendor. Mr. Thane's expertise was undeniable, his movements both graceful and efficient, earning him the admiration and trust of the town's elite. One crisp morning, as dawn broke over the horizon, Mr. Thane stood before the assembled townsfolk, his tools laid neatly beside him. The anticipation in the air was evident, a collective breath held in hope of a brighter future. "Today marks the culmination of our efforts," Mr. Thane announced, his voice steady and commanding. "With this final adjustment, the clock will once again keep time for Mornvale, symbolizing our town's rebirth and enduring spirit." He reached for a small, ornate key, turning it with deliberate precision. The clock's hands began to move, their motion slow and deliberate at first, then gaining momentum. As the hands aligned to mark the start of a new hour, Mr. Thane stepped back, allowing the clock to fully awaken. The chime that echoed through the town was deep and resonant, a harmonious blend of metal and wood that seemed to vibrate with an ancient power. For a fleeting moment, the townsfolk reveled in the triumph of restored time, their cheers echoing against the stone walls of the clock tower. Yet, as the chime faded, an undercurrent of unease began to permeate the celebratory atmosphere. Whispers of discomfort spread like ripples through a pond. Subtle changes took root, the wind carried faint, unintelligible murmurs, leaves rustled with an almost sentient intent, and the once comforting glow of evening lights now flickered with a ghostly inconsistency. The pervasive feeling of unease grew, as if the very essence of Mornvale was reacting to the clock's revival. Despite the growing tension, Mr. Thane's influence only deepened. The mayor and local elites, previously skeptical, now found themselves swayed by his every suggestion. Thomas Grayson, emboldened by Mr. Thane's assurances, began implementing changes that promised modernization and growth. Underneath it all, however, a subtle manipulation was at play. Mr. Thane's words carried an unspoken authority, bending the wills of those in power to his own enigmatic agenda. As the days turned into weeks, Mornvale found itself ensnared in a web of inexplicable occurrences, each more unsettling than the last. The revival of the clock tower, once heralded as the town's salvation, now seemed to be the harbinger of something far more ominous. Nightfall in Mornvale had always been a time for rest, but recently, the town's nights were plagued by restless sleep and vivid nightmares. Residents found themselves tormented by dreams that intertwined elements of reality and the macabre. Mechanical beasts with rusted limbs and blood-stained gears roamed the shadowy landscapes of their subconscious, their relentless pursuit leaving dreamers drenched in fear. Children awoke in tears, their innocent minds unable to comprehend the horrors they witnessed each night. Even the most stoic adults were not spared, their dreams echoing with the clanking of unseen machinery and the distant, anguished cries of the tormented. Eleanor Hawthorne, the town's diligent librarian, was no exception. Night after night, she was haunted by visions of the clock tower's innards, gears turning in impossible patterns, conduits dripping with an inky, red substance that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. These dreams left her exhausted and increasingly obsessed with uncovering their meaning. Determined to find answers, Eleanor delved deeper into the archives of Mornvale's library, her fingers tracing the yellowed pages of forgotten tomes and brittle manuscripts. Among the dusty volumes, she stumbled upon a collection of journals and records detailing the history of the clock tower's original construction. One entry, in particular, caught her attention. It chronicled the life of Edgar Grimstone, the clock tower's creator, a man whose brilliance was overshadowed by his descent into madness and accusations of dark sorcery. The record spoke of bizarre rituals performed within the tower's depths, sacrifices made to an unknown entity in a desperate bid to control time itself. As Eleanor pieced together the fragmented accounts, a chilling pattern emerged. Each time the clock had been restored, tragedies had followed, disappearances, unexplained deaths, and a pervasive sense of dread that settled over the town. The current restoration by Mr. Thane mirrored those past endeavors, raising alarming questions about his true intentions. Her heart pounded as she connected the dots. The clock's ticking was not merely a mechanism of timekeeping but a conduit for an ancient, malevolent force that thrived on chaos and despair. The more she uncovered, the clearer it became that Mr. Thane was not just a skilled horologist but a harbinger of darkness seeking to reclaim what was lost. As Eleanor delved into the dark history of the clock tower, Mr. Thane's influence over Mornvale grew ever more potent. The townsfolk, initially skeptical, now found themselves irresistibly drawn to his charisma and promises of prosperity. His presence was magnetic, his words weaving a tapestry of hope that masked the underlying threat. Mayor Thomas Grayson, once a beacon of prudence and restraint, had become a fervent advocate for rapid modernization. Under Mr. Thane's subtle guidance, he implemented sweeping changes that promised to catapult Mornvale into a new era of progress. The townspeople, eager for a better future, supported these initiatives wholeheartedly, their doubts dissolving in the face of apparent advancement. Meanwhile, Samuel Harris, a humble farmer whose family had struggled to maintain their land, found himself yearning for youth and vitality he had long lost. Mr. Thane, with his uncanny understanding of human desires, offered Samuel the illusion of rejuvenation. The farmer's transformation, though subtle at first, hinted at the dark bargains being struck behind the scenes. Even the local artisans and merchants, who had once resisted change, began to follow Mr. Thane's lead without question. His ability to tap into their deepest desires and fears ensured unwavering loyalty, binding the town's elite to his enigmatic agenda. The once tight-knit community was now divided, with allegiance to Mr. Thane overshadowing long-standing traditions and values. Amidst the growing adoration for Mr. Thane, Father Ewan remained a steadfast voice of caution. His faith, unshaken by the town's newfound optimism, compelled him to warn Mornvale of the dangers lurking within the clock tower's revival. Drawing upon ancient religious texts and his own spiritual insights, he spoke of relics tainted by dark rituals and the perils of meddling with forces beyond human comprehension. During evening sermons, Father Ewan implored his congregation to heed the signs of impending doom. He spoke of the sanctity of time, the natural order that should not be tampered with, and the spiritual decay that accompanied the clock tower's resurrection. His words, however, fell on deaf ears. The townsfolk, entranced by Mr. Thane's promises, dismissed his warnings as the ramblings of a paranoid man clinging to outdated beliefs. One night, as Father Ewan stood alone in the parish hall, he penned a heartfelt plea to the town council, urging them to reconsider their alliance with Mr. Thane. He detailed the ominous correlations between the clock's restoration and the series of tragic events plaguing Morn Vale. Yet, despite his fervent efforts, his concerns were met with indifference and subtle rebukes. The mayor assured him that progress required sacrifice, silencing any dissent with the allure of a brighter future. Undeterred, Father Ewan vowed to continue his quest for the truth, even as the shadows of the clock tower stretched ever longer over Morn Vale. His unwavering resolve set him on a path that would soon intertwine with Eleanor's discoveries, drawing them both deeper into the heart of the town's dark legacy. As the eerie phenomena intensified, the fragile veneer of prosperity began to crack, revealing the festering undercurrents of fear and desperation that lay beneath. The once hopeful townsfolk now found themselves caught in a vortex of nightmares and manipulation, their lives increasingly intertwined with the clock tower's ominous influence. The allure of Mr. Thane's promises grew irresistible, seeping into the very souls of Mornvale's residents. Thomas Grayson, emboldened by his newfound authority, pushed for aggressive modernization projects, disregarding the town's historical significance and the warnings voiced by Father Ewan and Eleanor. His decisions, though initially lauded, began to alienate longtime citizens who valued tradition over progress. Samuel Harris, the farmer, found himself entranced by Mr. Thane's subtle manipulations. His once fertile fields now yielded crops of unnatural perfection, their vibrant colors masking the ominous rot that lay beneath. The townsfolk watched in awe and unease as Samuel transformed into a symbol of prosperity, his once humble demeanor replaced by an unearthly vigor that seemed both miraculous and terrifying. Eleanor, torn between her duty to protect the town and her growing obsession with the clock tower's dark secrets, found herself isolated. Her friends and colleagues in the library grew distant, wary of her incessant inquiries and the ominous truths she was uncovering. The weight of her discoveries pressed heavily upon her, pushing her to the brink of madness as she grappled with the implications of Edgar Grimstone's cursed legacy. Father Ewan, feeling the strain of his solitary battle against the clock tower's influence, sought solace in prayer and ancient scriptures. Yet, the more he delved into his spiritual defenses, the more he realized that faith alone might not be enough to combat the darkness that had taken root in Morn Vale. His warnings became more urgent, yet they continued to fall on deaf ears, deepening his sense of isolation and despair. The supernatural manifestations within Morn Vale escalated, their intensity reaching a crescendo that could no longer be ignored. The townsfolk found themselves haunted by spectral apparitions and inexplicable phenomena that defied rational explanation. One stormy night, a fierce thunderclap illuminated the clock tower, revealing ghostly figures dancing amidst the gears and cogs. These apparitions, remnants of the clock tower's dark past, reached out with ethereal hands, their hollow eyes reflecting the torment of their eternal existence. Residents who ventured too close to the tower reported seeing these spirits, their presence sending chills down their spines and instilling a paralyzing fear. The once reliable clock's ticking became erratic, each strike of the hour accompanied by a cacophony of dissonant sounds that resonated with the townsfolk's deepest fears. The rhythmic ticking seemed to pulse in time with their hearts, creating an unholy synchronization that melded the boundaries of the physical and the supernatural. Livestock continued to die under mysterious circumstances, their carcasses left in grotesque poses that suggested ritualistic significance. The air grew thick with an oppressive energy, making each breath a struggle as the town grappled with the encroaching darkness that seemed to emanate from the clock tower's very core. Amidst the growing chaos, Eleanor and Father Ewan found their paths converging, their shared suspicions and relentless pursuit of the truth forging an unbreakable alliance. United by their desire to save Mornvale from the clutches of darkness, they embarked on a quest to uncover the clock tower's deepest secrets. In the quiet hours of the night, Eleanor and Father Ewan met in the dimly lit corners of the library, poring over ancient texts and piecing together the fragmented history of Edgar Grimstone. Their research revealed the horrifying truth: the clock tower was more than just a time-keeping device, it was a vessel for a malevolent force that thrived on the town's collective fear and despair. Their discoveries painted a grim picture of the sacrifices made to control time, the dark rituals that bound the clock's mechanisms to the fabric of reality. The clock's ticking was not merely mechanical but imbued with a malicious energy that drew power from the town's suffering. As they delved deeper, Eleanor and Father Ewan realized that Mr. Thane's true purpose was to rekindle the clock's dark legacy, using the town's desperation as fuel for his nefarious agenda. The clock tower's revival was a deliberate act to awaken the ancient force that Edgar Grimstone had once sought to contain. Determined to thwart Mr. Thane's plans, Eleanor and Father Ewan began to formulate a plan to disrupt the clock's corrupted rhythm. Their journey was fraught with peril, as the clock tower's influence seeped into every aspect of Mornvale's existence, threatening to consume the town in its relentless pursuit of power and control. With each passing day, the tension within Mornvale mounted, the distinction between the real and the surreal crumbled under the weight of the clock tower's growing control. The battle between the forces of good, represented by Eleanor and Father Ewan, and the malevolent power of Mr. Thane in the clock tower, reached a boiling point, setting the stage for the impending confrontation that would determine the fate of Mornvale. As the clock tower struck the third hour of the night, a violent tremor shook the very foundations of Mornvale. The ground cracked open, revealing a gaping maw that seemed to consume the light and hope of the town. From the depths of the clock tower, a torrent of shadowy tendrils erupted, snaking their way through the streets, enveloping the townsfolk in a suffocating embrace of darkness. Eleanor and Father Ewan stood at the edge of the town square, their eyes fixed on the unfolding chaos. The air was thick with an unmistakable sense of dread, the once hopeful chime of the clock now a cacophony of tortured screams and mechanical screeches that reverberated through their very souls. "We have to stop him," Eleanor whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and determination. "Yes," Father Ewan replied, his gaze unwavering despite the horror surrounding them. "But how?" Before they could formulate a response, a blinding flash of light emanated from the clock tower's entrance, momentarily illuminating the night with an unholy brilliance. As their vision cleared, they found themselves facing Mr. Thane, his eyes gleaming with an otherworldly power, his presence now fully merged with the clock tower's dark essence. "Welcome to the true beginning," Mr. Thane declared, his voice echoing with a malevolent resonance. "Mornvale will remember all." With that chilling proclamation, the clock tower's full power was unleashed, plunging the town into a vortex of time and darkness. Eleanor and Father Ewan braced themselves for the battle that would decide not only their own fates but the very soul of Mornvale. And so, the stage was set for a confrontation where time itself would become the ultimate battleground, and the true cost of tampering with the natural order would be revealed. As the days melded into nights, the air in Mornvale grew thick with an oppressive tension. The once hopeful hum of the clock tower now resonated with an undercurrent of dread, its rhythmic ticking a constant reminder of the darkness that had taken root within the town. In the heart of Mornvale lived Lydia Merrick, a young woman known for her vibrant spirit and unwavering kindness. When Mr. Thane arrived, Lydia, like many others, was drawn to his promises of renewal and prosperity. On a chilly autumn evening, she accepted a mysterious token from him, a small, intricately carved pendant that glimmered with an unearthly sheen. At first, Lydia felt a surge of energy, a revitalizing force that seemed to breathe new life into her weary frame. Her friends and family celebrated her newfound vigor, unaware of the threatening price she was beginning to pay. But as weeks passed, subtle changes began to manifest. Lydia's once radiant complexion paled, her eyes lost their luster, and a hollow emptiness settled within her gaze. One fateful night, under the silvery glow of a full moon, Lydia stood alone in the town square, her body slowly withering as she stared blankly at the clock tower. Her vitality drained away, leaving her a mere shadow of her former self, trapped in a state of eternal decay. The townsfolk watched in horror as their beloved Lydia succumbed to the clock tower's malevolent influence, her transformation a grim tribute to the true cost of Mr. Thane's promises. Her lifeless form stood motionless, a silent sentinel to the darkness that had begun to consume Mornvale, leaving a lingering question in the minds of the townsfolk: what other sacrifices would the clock tower demand for its twisted revival? Haunted by Lydia's tragic fate, Eleanor Hawthorne and Father Ewan felt their resolve harden. The evidence was mounting, and the connection between Mr. Thane's influence and the town's suffering was becoming impossible to ignore. Determined to uncover the truth, they decided it was time to confront the enigmatic horologist directly. One misty evening, as shadows lengthened and the clock tower loomed ominously against the twilight sky, Eleanor and Father Ewan approached Mr. Thane's residence. Their hearts pounded with a mix of fear and determination, each step bringing them closer to the answers they so desperately sought. Knocking on the heavy wooden door, they were met with a polite yet distant smile. The door swung open to reveal Mr. Thane, his piercing gray eyes seemingly devoid of emotion. He welcomed them inside with a gesture of courteous hospitality, his demeanor calm and unruffled. "Mr. Thane," Eleanor began, her voice steady despite the turmoil within, "we need to talk about what's happening in Mornvale. Lydia's condition, she accepted one of your tokens and now she's fading away." Mr. Thane's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second, but he quickly regained his composure. "Ah, Lydia. She is experiencing the initial effects of the clock tower's restoration." The pendant was a symbol of her commitment to Mornvale's rebirth. Father Ewan stepped forward, his eyes burning with righteous anger. "This is unnatural, Mr. Thane. These tokens, this clock tower, it's as if you're siphoning life from our people to fuel some dark ritual." Mr. Thane's smile returned, colder this time. "You misunderstand, Father. I am merely restoring what was lost. The clock tower's revival requires dedication, and those who offer their support are rewarded with prosperity and longevity." Eleanor exchanged a glance with Father Ewan, her doubts deepening. "Prosperity at the cost of our people's lives? This isn't the Mornvale we know." Mr. Thane's eyes glinted with an unsettling intensity. "Progress often requires sacrifice. Without it, Mornvale would remain a shadow of its potential. Embrace the change, and the town will thrive like never before." As he spoke, a chill seemed to descend upon the room, the atmosphere thick with unspoken threats and hidden motives. Eleanor and Father Ewan felt the weight of his manipulative influence pressing down upon them, their pleas for mercy and reason falling on deaf ears. "We won't stand by and watch our town decay," Father Ewan declared, his voice unwavering. "We will stop whatever you're doing here." Mr. Thane's smile widened, a hint of menace lurking beneath his composed exterior. "You are welcome to try, but know that the clock tower's power is not so easily thwarted. Time waits for no one, but it remembers all." With those chilling words, Mr. Thane dismissed them, his presence leaving an indelible mark of fear and uncertainty. Eleanor and Father Ewan left his residence with their mission more urgent than ever, their hearts heavy with the realization that they were up against a formidable and enigmatic foe. As Eleanor and Father Ewan delved deeper into their investigation, the subtle yet persistent manifestations of the clock tower's influence continued to escalate. Residents began reporting strange occurrences that defied logical explanation, each incident further deepening the town's descent into chaos. One evening, Henry Lawson, a local carpenter, was seen standing at the far end of Mornvale's expansive fields, staring blankly at the clock tower from a distance. Despite being miles away from the structure, Henry swore he could hear the incessant ticking echoing in his mind, a sound that seemed to grow louder with each passing moment. His friends found him muttering to himself, eyes glazed over with a haunting emptiness. In another instance, Margaret Collins, the owner of the town's general store, reported seeing shadows move unnaturally across her walls, shapes that danced and twisted in ways that defied the laws of physics. Objects within her store would shift position on their own, and the creaking of gears seemed to emanate from the very foundation of her home, whispering secrets that only she could hear. These small, eerie changes served as constant reminders of the clock tower's pervasive influence, each event a thread in the intricate tapestry of Mornvale's unraveling reality. The townsfolk, gripped by fear and uncertainty, found themselves questioning the very essence of their existence, their trust in one another eroding under the weight of the clock tower's dark legacy. Eleanor and Father Ewan, undeterred by the mounting obstacles, pressed on with their quest for the truth. Their alliance grew stronger as they shared their findings and supported each other through the trials that beset them. Together, they began to piece together the intricate puzzle that linked Mr. Thane, the clock tower, and the town's spiraling descent into darkness. Yet, with each revelation, the stakes grew higher, and friend and foe merged in a haze of uncertainty. The pervasive sense of unease threatened to consume Mornvale, leaving its residents teetering on the brink of madness as the clock tower's foreboding influence tightened its grip. As the days of escalating terror continued to plague Mornvale, Eleanor Hawthorne and Father Ewan found themselves on the precipice of uncovering the town's darkest secret. Their relentless pursuit of the truth had led them deeper into the shadows of the clock tower's malevolent influence. One stormy night, Eleanor sat alone in the dimly lit corner of the library, the flickering candle casting elongated shadows across her determined face. Her fingers trembled as she turned the fragile pages of an ancient manuscript, each word revealing fragments of a baleful history. Her eyes widened as she uncovered the most shocking revelation: the clock's pendulum was not merely a mechanism of timekeeping, but a vessel for a corrupted relic, a shard of a saint's bone, drenched in blood magic. This sacred artifact, tainted by dark rituals, was the source of the clock tower's unnatural power. It pulsed with a malevolent energy, binding the clock's movements to the town's very essence. Eleanor's heart pounded as she realized the extent of the horror that had been unleashed upon Mornvale. The pendulum's rotation was not just a measure of time but a conduit for siphoning the town's life force, feeding an ancient and malevolent entity that thrived on decay and despair. Meanwhile, Father Ewan delved into the spiritual texts and ancient scriptures, his faith guiding him through the labyrinth of darkness that had enveloped Mornvale. In his fervent prayers and meditative contemplation, he unearthed a chilling truth about Mr. Thane. Mr. Thane was no ordinary man. He was a vessel for an ancient force tied to time and decay, a being of immense power seeking to reclaim control over the natural order. His intent was not to restore the town but to harvest its life force, using the clock tower as a conduit to channel the town's vitality into sustaining his dark existence. Father Ewan's discovery shattered his understanding of the world, leaving him grappling with a faith tested by the encroaching darkness. The man they had believed to be a savior was, in truth, the harbinger of Mornvale's impending doom. With the horrifying truths now laid bare, Eleanor and Father Ewan faced a town that had turned its back on them. The once hopeful residents, now under Mr. Thane's insidious influence, viewed the pair as threats to their newfound prosperity. Meetings that were once filled with enthusiasm for progress now echoed with whispers of paranoia and fear. The mayor, Thomas Grayson, once a staunch supporter of modernization, now spearheaded efforts to silence Eleanor and Father Ewan, branding their warnings as baseless hysteria. Mr. Thane's control tightened, his presence casting a shadow over every corner of Mornvale. Hallucinations and false promises became commonplace, warping the perception of reality into illusion. The town's collective will was bending under the weight of his manipulative influence, leaving Eleanor and Father Ewan isolated and desperate. As hope dwindled, the realization dawned upon them that the battle they faced was not just against Mr. Thane, but against the very fabric of time and darkness that threatened to consume their beloved town. With the clock tower's true power now exposed, Eleanor Hawthorne and Father Ewan knew that the fate of Mornvale rested on their shoulders. Determined to save their town from the clutches of darkness, they sought out unlikely allies in their quest to confront Mr. Thane and dismantle the clock tower's malevolent mechanism. Under the cover of night, Eleanor, Father Ewan, and their reluctant ally, Daniel Mercer, a disgraced ex-soldier seeking redemption, approached the looming clock tower. The structure stood as a grotesque monument to the town's despair, its once noble facade now twisted by dark energies. They moved silently through the labyrinthine corridors, the air thick with the scent of decay and the oppressive weight of the clock's corrupted power. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the clock tower, where the pendulum swung with a malevolent grace, its movements echoing the relentless passage of time. Inside, the clock tower was a surreal maze of spinning gears, glowing runes, and shifting corridors that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The walls pulsed with an eerie energy, and the rhythmic ticking resonated like a heartbeat of an ancient beast. Shadows danced along the walls, whispering secrets that chilled the soul. At the center of the clock tower, Eleanor and Father Ewan confronted Mr. Thane, whose form had now fully merged with the clock's dark essence. His eyes gleamed with an otherworldly power, and his presence radiated an aura of malevolence that threatened to overpower their resolve. "Welcome," Mr. Thane intoned, his voice a haunting blend of human warmth and unholy resonance. "You seek to stop me, but time is the essence of power. Without it, nothing can endure." The air thickened as Mr. Thane began to manipulate the clock's mechanisms, his every gesture warping the environment around them. Surreal illusions materialized, taunting Eleanor and Father Ewan with their deepest fears and desires. Eleanor faced visions of helplessness and failure, her fear of being powerless threatening to break her spirit. Father Ewan was confronted with shadows of doubt, his unwavering faith being tested by the overwhelming darkness. But amidst the chaos, Eleanor found her inner strength, recalling the town's history and the sanctity of time. Father Ewan clung to his faith, drawing upon the spiritual defenses he had long cultivated. Together, they resisted the illusions, their determination shining as a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Daniel Mercer, battling his own demons of guilt and despair, found redemption in this final stand, his courage a crucial element in the trio's fight against Mr. Thane's overwhelming power. As the first light of dawn began to pierce the darkness enveloping Mornvale, a solemn stillness settled over the town. The remnants of the clock tower loomed against the horizon, its once menacing presence now bearing the scars of the fierce battle that had transpired within its walls. Eleanor Hawthorne, her body weary yet resolute, stood at the precipice of salvation in sacrifice. The shattered remnants of the pendulum lay before her, a grotesque emblem to the clock tower's corrupted power. In her hands, she held a sacred symbol, a relic of her faith and the town's enduring hope. "This ends now," Eleanor whispered, her voice a blend of determination and sorrow. "For Mornvale, I must do this." With unwavering courage, she approached the pulsating shard of the saint's bone, her step steady despite the turmoil within her heart. The air around her shimmered with the residual dark magic, the clock tower's oppressive energy pressing in from all sides. As she raised the holy symbol high, a radiant light enveloped her, countering the malevolent forces that sought to consume her. Eleanor's sacrifice was swift and profound. She pressed the symbol against the corrupted relic, her spirit intertwining with the ancient magic. A brilliant flash of light erupted from the pendulum, shattering its malevolent hold over the clock tower. The very fabric of time seemed to tremble as the clock began to collapse, its gears grinding in protest as darkness gave way to light. Mr. Thane's form, once so formidable and intertwined with the clock's dark essence, began to disintegrate. Ashen particles swirled around him, his shadow stretching and contorting in a final, desperate attempt to cling to power. With a final, agonized scream, his essence was torn apart, dissipating into the now lifeless gears of the fallen clock tower. Eleanor, her energy spent, collapsed to the ground. As the light faded, she looked up at Father Ewan, her eyes reflecting both pain and unwavering hope. "Rebuild Mornvale," she whispered, her voice fading with each word. "Without relying on false promises. Preserve what truly matters." Father Ewan knelt beside her, his heart heavy with loss yet filled with gratitude for her ultimate sacrifice. He held her hand, feeling the warmth of her legacy imprint upon his soul, a beacon guiding him through the darkness that had threatened to consume them all. As the remnants of the clock tower crumbled around them, the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the town with a promise of renewal and rebirth. The oppressive darkness that had once loomed over Mornvale was lifted, replaced by a serene calm that signified the triumph of light over darkness, hope over despair. The dawn of a new day bathed Mornvale in a gentle, golden light, the ruins of the clock tower standing as a solemn reminder of the night's harrowing events. The townsfolk gathered in the town square, their hearts heavy with mourning for the lives lost and the innocence shattered. Yet, amidst their sorrow, there was a tangible sense of relief and gratitude for the sacrifices made to save their beloved town. Father Ewan moved through the crowd, his presence a comforting anchor in the sea of grief. He knelt beside Eleanor's resting place, placing a hand over her still form. "Her sacrifice will not be in vain," he murmured, his voice a blend of sorrow and unwavering faith. "We will rebuild Mornvale, stronger and wiser, honoring her legacy by cherishing what truly matters." As the townsfolk dispersed, leaving behind the echoes of their collective loss, Father Ewan remained at the heart of the ruins. His eyes scanned the debris of the clock tower, finally resting upon a small, intricately carved stone fragment that lay among the rubble. Etched into its surface was a cryptic message. "Time waits for no one, but it remembers all." He picked up the fragment, feeling a strange warmth emanate from its core. The words resonated deeply within him, a haunting reminder of the battle they had endured and the vigilance required to protect their town from the shadows that once lurked beneath its surface. As Mornvale began to heal and rebuild, the memory of Eleanor's bravery and sacrifice became the cornerstone of the town's renewed spirit. Her legacy inspired the townsfolk to cherish their community, fostering a unity that had been tested by darkness but ultimately triumphed through faith and resilience. However, amidst the hopeful rebuilding, a faint, eerie glow emanated from the remnants of the pendulum fragment. Hidden within the rubble, it pulsed with a mysterious energy, hinting that the ancient evil they had vanquished might not be entirely eradicated. The faint luminescence served as a silent warning, a reminder that time, though now in their favor, still held secrets and dangers that Mornvale must remain ever vigilant against. And so, the town of Mornvale stood on the brink of a new era, forever changed by the events that had unfolded but determined to move forward with hope and unity. The clock tower's ruin was both an end and a beginning, a reflection to the enduring power of sacrifice and the timeless battle between light and darkness. As the sun set on this chapter of Mornvale's history, the cryptic message echoed in Father Ewan's mind, a solemn vow that the town would remember the past and protect its future. Time had moved forward, carrying with it the memories of what had been lost and the promise of what was yet to come. And so, the story of Mornvale concluded, its legacy etched into the annals of time, a haunting yet hopeful reminder that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, the light of sacrifice and unity can illuminate the path to redemption. Comment below with your thoughts. What part of the story sent shivers down your spine? Do you have your own terrifying tales to share? We'd love to hear from you. If this tale kept you on the edge of your seat, don't let the darkness end here. Subscribe to our channel to uncover more spine-chilling stories and original horror narratives that will haunt your dreams. Like and share this video if it gave you goosebumps. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story as we delve deeper into the shadows, exploring the darkest corners of imagination. Until next time, remember, time waits for no one, but it remembers all. Stay spooky, and see you in the next tale.